So what is the mortgage process for an NHS worker? Let's find out. So let's go through the mortgage process that NHS workers would follow after submitting an inquiry to Boon Brokers. So firstly, we would allocate your case to a broker who understands NHS worker pay and other aspects of working for the NHS. They then book a consultation with you. This is totally fee-free. At Boon Brokers, we actually don't charge client fees at any stage of the process. This is entirely fee-free, and during the consultation, your broker goes through your affordability, goes through a KFI, key facts illustration document with you, and explains the process for you specifically and what to expect next. After that, they'll need to collect your documentation, so payslips, bank statements, ID verification, these sort of documents. They'll let you know what they need from you. They'll verify that, and at that point, they can source the market and find a suitable lender for your agreement in principle. Now, if you're looking to buy a property, an agreement in principle typically acts as a vehicle that you can use to make offers on properties to purchase. So it's normally a certificate, one-page certificate, and it normally shows the maximum sum that you can borrow. So plus your deposit, you'll then understand what your maximum purchase price is that you can offer on for a property. Estate agents typically need this document before they can accept offers on properties to purchase, and it's normally valid for 30 to 60 days. Now, when you've had an offer accepted on a property, at that point, your broker will source the market again and hopefully find the very best deal for you and submit a full mortgage application with your most suitable lender. At that point, evaluation is instructed by the lender on your property to purchase. This is normally a physical valuation. It's normally physical, or it can be automated, but most are physical. So an actual surveyor will go and see your property to make sure it's as valued at what you're saying it is. And as soon as that's verified, at that point, the underwriters will assess your case fully. Underwriters are people who work for the lender. They check the application against the documents provided and make sure that the property is suitable security. And then after that long process, a mortgage offer is typically issued. And a mortgage offer is valid for 6 months, and it's legally binding to the lender, not to yourself, until you accept it. So at that point, your deal is fairly secure, and then we pass your case on to your solicitor, your conveyancer, who will process the conveyancing part of the job until you own the property. So there are quite a few documents that your broker will ask for as an NHS worker. Income proof is the major one. Typically you need to provide payslip proof, so 1 to 3 months of payslips, or perhaps a signed employment contract if you've just started working for the NHS. Also bank statements to verify your income as well and to see your expenditure. Lenders normally need to see 3 to 6 months of bank statement proof. Then you've got ID and address verification. For ID verification, passport or driving licenses should be adequate. They need to be in date. And then address verification, this can normally be a council tax bill, utility bill, or a different bank statement. And then lastly, lenders normally need to see some form of deposit proof, as long as it's from liquid funds. So for example, if it's from gifted equity, you can't really prove equity, so lenders don't need to see that proof. But if it's perhaps gifted or from savings, then lenders do need to see some form of proof. With a gift, it could be a gifted deposit letter. Lenders normally have templates on their websites that you can sign for that. Or if it's savings, then it could be bank statements. So the timeline for your mortgage application as an NHS worker will depend on quite a few factors. The main one being your own personal situation. If you've got complex income or a complex credit report, your application might take a bit longer than other more vanilla cases. Now, in terms of your interaction with us at Boon Brokers, when you submit an inquiry, at that point we'll book you in for a consultation with one of our expert fee-free mortgage brokers. They'll book you in and they'll go through the mortgage process, your own situation, show you a key facts illustration document and outline the next steps in your mortgage journey. The consultation, we can normally book that within 1 working day of you submitting an inquiry. And then after that point, our goal is to get an agreement in principle document for you. The agreement in principle, that can be used for you to make offers on properties to purchase, and estate agents normally need this before they can accept any offer from you. Before we can get that, we need to have documents. We need to have a completed fact find from you, and normally certified income and bank statements as well. When we've then got the agreement in principle for you, which is typically a 1 working day turnaround time, we can then proceed with a full mortgage application as soon as you've had an offer accepted. Now, when you've sent us over all the details of the property that you'd like to proceed with, at that point, we package your application, submit it off to the underwriters, and that can normally take a couple of hours or so. At that point, it's normally a 1 to 3 week turnaround time for the underwriters to assess our application. But it really does depend on a key part of the process, which is the survey, the valuation. Normally, lenders will instruct a physical or a desktop valuation. A physical valuation is where they'll pay an actual human surveyor to go and see the property, and that obviously depends on the surveyor's timescales in terms of when they can book that in. Whereas a desktop valuation, an automated valuation, can be done straight away. As I say, from the point of application to when your mortgage offer is issued, as long as it's acceptable to the lender, this is normally a 1 to 3 week turnaround time. And then when they're happy, they can issue your mortgage offer, which is valid for 6 months. So there are quite a few common mistakes that NHS workers make before applying for a mortgage. Firstly, not evidencing their additional income clearly enough. Often if you work for the NHS and receive weekly payslips, a broker will need to see all of these weekly payslips before they can package your case properly. At Boon Brokers, we tend to find people send a few different payslips, but they're not matched up, they don't follow properly. So try to send your payslips. If you've, say, worked for the NHS for 6 months, we need at least normally 3 months of payslips before we can proceed with your case. So if they're weekly, send all of them. Ideally, there'd be no gaps. Another common mistake that NHS workers make is changing roles during the application and not informing their broker. If you change roles, when your mortgage offer is then ultimately issued by the lender, if they find out that you have changed roles and not informed them, your application may be rejected. So if you do change roles, or ideally even before you've actually changed the role, inform your broker and we can then plan ahead. The third common mistake is assuming that all lenders view NHS income in the same way. It's true that most lenders will view your basic salary in the same way, and they'll often accept 100% of it as long as you're on a permanent contract, but they may view, say, your overtime, shift pay and weekend pay differently depending on the lender. For example, some lenders can accept 100% of your overtime and use all of it for affordability purposes. Some might accept 50%, or some might accept none. So every lender is different and their criteria will be different for your own circumstances. Submitting incomplete or unclear documents is another mistake that lots of people make. Now, before you send documents to us at Boon Brokers, make sure all the information is easily visible. If you're taking pictures of your payslips or ID perhaps on your phone, it can be quite easy for the picture to be blurred, so just make sure you double check it before sending it to us, because if a broker does send that documentation then on to a lender and they reject it, that can delay your application by days and if not weeks. The final common mistake that people make is overlooking their financial commitments. So it's really important to state that when we submit your agreement in principle application with a lender, which is fairly early on in the process, the lender will have sight of all of your financial commitments. So it's really important to be honest from the get-go, otherwise your application might be rejected. Thank you for watching this video on how to get an NHS mortgage. At Boon Brokers, we're a fee-free, whole-of-market mortgage brokerage, and we'd be more than happy to help you with your mortgage requirements moving forwards. Just submit an inquiry and one of our brokers will be in touch. Also, read the guide below for more information and download our PDF guide if you want even more information and if you want to pass it to friends and family.